Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ventura County Works. Today we have a returning guest with us. We're going to be talking about utilizing AI for underserved communities. And back with us is Celia Daniels. She is a board member of the Ventura County Workforce Board and founder and CEO of Rebekon Consulting LLC. Of course, with us is Rebecca Evans. Celia, Rebecca, welcome. Great to be back here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. Thanks for the introduction. And Celia, thank you for raising your hand and coming back and joining us on the podcast. We're going to have a few episodes with members of the Workforce Board talking about their areas of expertise. And I'll share that you have shared some of the information we're going to talk about today at the California Workforce Association's WorkCon conference, and we've had very good response and very good reception at the workshop where Celia was able to provide this to Workforce Board staff across the state of California. And so we're very excited to devote one of our Ventura County Works podcast episodes to this topic as well. So Celia, you've used the term humanizing AI, and you've used that to talk about it across the board and in relation to humanizing workplaces and ensuring that our workspaces, our work environments are focused on the human beings that do the work. So what does humanizing AI mean to you, especially in the context of equity and inclusion for communities like veterans, disabled individuals, or racial minorities?
Thank you, Rebecca. One of the things that I found, especially, I've been doing quite a lot of consulting in the DEI space, and I also found that sometimes DEI, as a terminology, can exclude certain communities as a part of the DEI umbrella. And I felt like for instance, I sometimes didn't feel included in spaces where women and women of color were having conversations about how to be an inclusive person in the work environment and the issues they're going through. And when I wanted to contribute to those conversations, I felt like I was not included. And to me, that felt like maybe we're not looking at it in the right angle. We're just looking at certain diversity, we are looking at equity and inclusion, but are we really humanizing workplaces? Are we really humanizing communities? Are we humanizing issues like healthcare? And so from there, you have this, you want to start prioritizing empathy, not just empathy, but also moving from empathy to empowerment. So there are lots of areas where I felt that there was lack of fairness and also lack of accessibility for people who are disabled. So the conversation that we're going to have today is not just about, I'm a trans person, but not just about me, but communities that are underserved. When I joined the workforce board, I saw that there's so many areas where we can really do well by educating ourselves and humanizing AI also. Because if you have bias as a human being, the bias can be translated into the AI algorithms and it can be integrated into those, it may be integrated. So we want to be mindful of that in terms of how do we humanize these ideas. And so that is really the whole point of having these conversations is to, as human beings, how can we be good allies to each other? How can we understand each other? How can we have technologies and innovation that really presents the human value and also the issues that people are going through? So I think that's where the terminology humanizing AI came from.
Great, thank you. And I know we've had quite a few conversations about this as we've navigated, recent changes and to honor different perspectives. But oftentimes, folks will see they're concerned that terms like equity and inclusion are only referring to race and whether you're setting a preference of one race or another in opportunity or in hiring. But equity and inclusion really is about, for workforce boards, ensuring that anyone who has faced a barrier to employment has access to employment and training so that they can be on a solid career path, be self sufficient, have sustaining wages, and a quality of life. And as you've pointed out, for us, that means working with veterans, persons with disabilities, individuals who've had interaction with the justice system in the past, as well as English language learners and others, anyone who's faced those challenges with entering the workforce or staying connected to training opportunities. So I'm glad we're having this conversation today to talk about it more broadly. You, Celia, have been deeply involved in workforce development in Ventura County in a couple of different settings. Can you share what underrepresented communities you see being left behind in today's rapidly changing labor market?
I think one of the areas that I have been focused is more on the corporate side of things, where the corporate industry and the biopharma industry, in the healthcare industry. But just coming out of my own shoes and starting to look at the entire county, I saw some of the issues that which were highly prevalent in the job market today, like the second chance folks, who've been people who have been incarcerated, is so important because there are folks who want to get back into the workforce, and they don't have the right system because the AI algorithms that is used for hiring those folks may not even allow them to. They will have a record which will say that this person is not eligible for any workforce at all. So it's so important for us to look at the workforce, and there's going to be some criminal record against this person. So we need to start thinking about how do we actually humanize AI in these areas. The other area that I'm more passionate about in Ventura County is more on the farm workers. So if you see a lot of the business that we do and a lot of revenue that we generate from Ventura County is based on the farm workers. Now, I've been asked this question as to Celia, why farm workers and AI? How does it make sense? No, I mean it makes sense because when you really look at farm workers today in whatever capacity they are working in the fields, there are ways in which you can have AI systems actually SMS on their phone. It can be a text phone that usually they carry a text phone, and very simple to flip the phone open and look at what the text is. And also certain messages that can be about the crop issues. It can be about the weather or drought season. It can be a lot of text that they can get, maybe completely I would say customized based on the county related issues they're going through. Like what is happening today in Oxnard versus in Simi Valley or in Camarillo, where they have issues with drought or understanding the pesticide level at different places. So they need to be cautious about handling certain ways in which there could be chemicals there. There are lots of areas and also hazards when they are using certain equipments. There are a lot of ways in which AI can predict these issues and start sending them ahead of time. It's harvest season, so you want to do this. It'll send you some information about this is the harvest season, this is what is happening. And if they need medical information, if they need even information about what's happening in the medical side or going to the doctor, or even when they want some economic empowerment, they need certain allowances and benefits. It can be easily sent to their phones, and there could be a lot of ways in which you can make them interact with the systems that we have today. One of the things that I also was thinking about is language barriers. It's such a big thing in our county because a lot of them are Spanish speaking. And it's important for us to see that a lot of AI related information and technologies are not available in local languages. So we need to be mindful of how we can use AI in the local language so that people can understand. And the one thing that I always remember is always you have to bring AI to the people. You can't take people to AI. And sometimes we make the mistake of taking people to AI and training them about how to use ChatGPT. Actually, it should be the other way. ChatGPT and OpenAI and all the companies need to start thinking about how can I create these environments, create these tools which will help the farm workers in their own setting, like creating a way in which you can have a gadget in the farms which will collect the pollen level, and it will also send them information saying this is where the pollens are, the level is very high, or there are information which will, based on the local setting, I'm not talking about national setting. And when you really do things like that to really improve the quality of people who are underserved in our communities, it's really helpful. So I'm not even going to the trans issues that people go through, but there are lots of ways in which we see biases in human beings. And if you have a brain, you have a bias. So we want to make sure that we remove all the biases and start working with underserved communities. And I believe if your system, your algorithms, and if your learning modules, if they are highly tuned to underserved communities, that's the kind of tools that is needed for our community. It's not very stereotypically able-bodied person, a person who's educated, and it's not always English speaking, highly high earning status. So it's all about looking at communities that are really struggling today in our county and how we can help those underserved population. I think that's where I believe that there's a lot of areas where we can start creating these changes.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah.
Great, thank you. Yes, it's so much to think about because a lot of AI is based on the information or the queries that go in, what the inputs are into the data and the algorithms, and then that's what comes back out. So ensuring that we have a broad set of information and experiences and environments and skills that go in is going to help that. And I really appreciate the way you put that, that it's not just all of us learning to use artificial intelligence tools, but the AI also has to machine learn how to serve all of us as well. I've heard in human resources it can be quite time saving, and HR has been using applicant screening tools for many years. However, you can sometimes miss someone who has great transferable skills just because their resume or their application doesn't have the exact wording that's in a job description or that's been put in a query. So we have job applicants that are learning how to describe their transferable skills, and everyone is now learning how to tailor their resumes and applications to the job descriptions. And at the same time, advanced tools would be very useful if they are able to recognize transferable skills or recognize that someone in one career could be very helpful and talented in a similar career where things are just labeled differently. So, really appreciate that. As AI and automation reshape the workforce in this way, as well as many other ways, what are some of the risks or blind spots that you see in how these technologies impact the marginalized communities?
Absolutely. This is one area where I feel that it's important for us to have the voice of the underserved communities. Because when you start developing an AI tool, I'm currently working on AI, developing a AI agents for based on for one of my clients. And when I really start thinking about what is the important thing that we need to look at in AI is you may have blind spots because it's all developed for a very, I would say, a binary society or a society that is ideally a good standing, good credit score person who is speaks English, and sometimes it's more catered towards people who are being part of this community. When you're an immigrant in this country, when you are a person of color, sometimes your accent might be very different. So there are lots of ways the AI needs to also start learning because it can have some historical prejudices when these tools are coming out. They may be just made for one segment. Interestingly, in my experience working with Google and a few other companies directly with the system engineers, what I have found is there are some nuances which is very important, that the Spanish that's spoken by folks in Mexico is highly different from the Spanish that's spoken in Portugal and Spain. The accents are different. There are lots of areas where sometimes you may not really understand how the AI works, because you can say, I have AI that can translate language and can interpret what exactly the person is thinking. There are a lot of terminologies that are not available today. And also when you think about the trans issues that I have seen, is when I put my resume out there, I use my pronouns and I said I'm a trans person and I can add value in the space and I've been working in DEI. I found that a lot of times people may have a prejudice to hire a woman or a trans woman or a person of color, because they feel like it could be a lot and they may not be able to say it openly. But what they try to do is they try to tune the job description in such a way that they'll say, I need a strong project manager. Now, the AI interprets the strong project manager as a man, as a masculine person. And that's the way it starts scanning through the resumes. And if you have entered a male or female, it's going to start looking at more resumes that are more male, because it feels like the environment is very aggressive. It needs a strong person to do it. And the project manager can actually create some of these biases by actually inducing these type of language in AI understanding. The other side of it is when you write a resume, suppose you want women in the workforce. I've seen job descriptions saying that we need a compassionate leader, a leader who is people oriented. Now, these are very good traits of women. They're more connected with people, they're much more um, compassionate, they're much more empowering. So, there are lots of ways in which sometimes you can have your biases into the systems and the algorithms that are being created. So it's important for us to understand that AI shouldn't interpret the language that we are giving into genders. It should not interpret language that we are giving as a person who has a better credit score, like a person who is having a very low, who's low in the socio-economical status, a person who's homeless, a person who is incarcerated, a person who's a farm worker, doesn't understand English. Sometimes even a person who is colorblind may not understand what colors they are seeing. They don't see red, green, and yellow because they see shades of gray. And there are lots of people who are part of the disabled community who are not, who may not fit into the ways in which the AI thinks today. I'll give you one example. Um, so when you have a user drop down UI UX, when it's developed, what happens is the AI interprets this. It's unable to understand your accessibility issues in terms of how you are clicking those buttons. So there are lots of AI accessibility tools, like in Apple. If you look at Apple Watch or Apple devices, there's one section called accessibility. There's a lot that we don't know. You have a problem with your site, it can help you with that. So there are a lot of ways in which you can actually take AI and make it more, customize it for the underserved communities, rather than just excluding those and saying that actually it is just a small population and that's why sometimes it falls through the cracks. And what I have spoken, when I spoke to the CEOs of these companies and chief technology officers, I gave them my feedback and I told them that you want to develop AI in such a way that it's able to accommodate every human being on the planet. It's not just about people of color. It's not about just, because there are a lot of folks who are may not fit into the able-bodied heterosexual or white heteronormative folks. So there are lots of ways in which we need to start challenging organizations and companies like even OpenAI, asking questions as to why is diversity lacking in OpenAI. You don't have a black person in the board. So how are you going to understand the community? Because you're developing a whole LLM and algorithms that's going to cater to millions of businesses across the world. And if you don't understand diversity, if you don't understand the historical prejudices, and then how are you going to have a system that really understands every human being on the planet. So I believe that the question I think some of the audience might be thinking is, hey, it's just come out, it's AI is just evolving because it's just there. Actually, AI was started in almost, I would say, in 1950s by Alan Turing, who first used AI type of technology for predicting the Enigma code. He cracked the Enigma code for the World War and saved millions of lives. And he happened to be a gay person. So there are lots of things, and he is a marginalized person too, who actually created these ideas, and he was marginalized. The person who actually developed a small chip on your iPhone today or your Androids, these ideas came from a person who actually developed it. Her name is Lynn Conway. She was working in IBM, and she's a marginalized person. And she was actually fired from IBM for coming out as a trans person. So sometimes we have seen historically that people are very creative in what they do, but they have never been part of an ecosystem that really accepted them. So to me, I'm just putting it back and saying that AI should recognize, and they are probably contributing to society, but we need to start thinking about AI can, like no human being left behind in AI. The AI should start learning and start developing its algorithms that nobody is left behind. I'm so passionate about this area, and I've been working in AI for a while now. I believe that as a person who is part of the workforce board, I want everybody to come for job fairs. I want every person and every company to have a good application tracking system that they have tweaked and customized it so that it can really be applicable to all the people in the county. And so they are not, it doesn't say that, oh, I'm so sorry, you have a criminal record. I can't, a system cannot accept you. But they have been pardoned, or that's just the way in which the AI just recognizes, but we can tune it. We can help AI learn. There's a lot of ways we can do good with AI. That's why I believe that it's important for us to humanize AI. By AI councils, AI advisory boards, we need to have, and diversity in that our advisory board is very important to have those voices to create such inclusive workplaces and communities.
Mhm. So, given all of that, and I know we've had some of this conversation, and as a workforce board, we're highly mandated with what we do and how we use our public dollars to serve the public. One of those is serving individuals who've had barriers to employment so that we can tap into this workforce that we already have living here locally, upskill them, and meet the needs of our employers. What role do you believe that workforce boards or local governments can play in making sure that AI serves all people and not just those with the privilege or the access to be able to learn it or be an early adopter?
Absolutely. I think a lot of that comes from training and education.
Mhm.
AI seems to be an area which is new. A lot of them are learning about AI. And it's so important for us to learn and educate ourselves and train our staff on the types of issues we are facing today. And that can really help in providing the right type of training, like upskilling a person for a particular role that they are looking for. And AI can even recommend saying that based on your history, this particular course might be helpful. Or there is evaluation already today. We do an upskilling, but it can go a little more sensitive to the cognitive skills. Because some of them, the evaluation that we have today currently might just be based on some key factors and criteria. But we should be able to customize that and make it more easier for educating and making the underserved communities feel like they can take these trainings, they can be part of it, they feel like they are not eliminated. They need to start trusting the system. I think that's where the whole thing comes. But sometimes we don't trust AI. We think that AI is going to take away our jobs. AI is going to actually no, absolutely not. AI cannot replace creativity. AI can replace commodity. where you're doing the same kind of job again and again, it can replace it. That's called just automation. So AI has a lot of things that it does, like agentic AIs, generative AI, and there are so many spaces within like self-driving cars and a lot of other spaces in manufacturing. They use AI. AI cannot replace your farm workers. AI cannot replace people who are in your offices today, but you can train them to use AI in the right manner. I think that's why you want to look at policies in your government. You want to make sure that you are having the right kind of people and the representation. So I want to leave this thought because this is such a big topic. So when we have AI implementing, it's like a change management within the organization. We need to start being more nimble in terms of what kind of changes are coming. Is it people-oriented changes? Is it system-oriented changes like processes, policies, benefits, and everything that's process related? People-oriented changes are more like looking at how can we train, upskill, educate our folks in the workforce department so that we can be much more knowledgeable and apply AI bring AI into our workforce and make AI work the way we want it to. That's why the agentic AIs come in, where we can train these agentic AIs to work the way we want. And also the last one is these systems and these technology that's behind it. So we want to be working with companies like Google directly, and they are happy to hear our feedback. You can work with Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, work with OpenAI, work with Gemini, and all these companies that are generating AI, like Azure AI. And a lot of these companies have this knowledge, and we want to make sure that we are working with them and giving feedback constantly with these companies and saying that, hey, your AI, Gemini today in Vertex AI, or when I use this agentic space, I found that there are people who are actually not being included. When I used Copilot, I felt like this community was not really represented in the right manner. I'm just giving you my feedback. So when they work with our workforce board, we need to have that kind of a collaboration. We can start developing systems and technology and processes that will really, really make a change in workforce board. And it's going to make a remarkable change because now the systems are much more creative, they're much more humanized, they really understand the issues we're going through as a community, and the job seekers feel much more included. And they don't have to hide the bias saying that, oh, I'm just an Asian. I don't want anyone to know that I'm a male or female. Now, the system really understands that whether you put a terminology as to strong or whether you say compassionate, it still finds the right kind of project manager who can manage these initiatives. And that's where I think it's so crucial for us to be interacting with the technology folks and giving feedback and forming an AI governance and an AI council within the workforce board. Even within our workforce board, when we start looking at AI technology, we want to make sure that we have the right representation from different groups, marginalized communities, yeah, and also get feedback from different sessions, working sessions with people who are incarcerated, the farm workers, people who are, part of other communities like veterans and people who are disabled. Get the feedback and try to start changing the systems that are around. And going back to this again, we need to bring AI to people and not people to AI. And that's the only way we can make our systems better and we can start having a much inclusive county in terms of all these changes that are coming in. So,
Well, I hesitate to add anything to those final points because you summed it up so well, and we really appreciate your work in this area, Celia. And yes, as a workforce board, we serve job seekers, but we also serve employers. And first and foremost, we want to make sure we are providing the local employers with the best qualified applicants, which is why we can invest in training and upskilling. And digital upskilling and technology is a focus area. It's a priority area for us, but it's also one of the best ways to get employees to be better qualified and ready to be a contributor in the workplace. So this topic and the points that you've made, I think, would be helpful for both the job seekers and the employers as we seek to connect the two and get the best match possible there. So we're about at our time. Is there anything else that I know you said a lot earlier, anything else you want to add in terms of the message for developers or policymakers?
Absolutely. I believe that change doesn't happen from the letterhead of the company or from the leaders of the company. Change happens from the employees of the company. And so it's important for us to start empowering people and start creating that kind of an environment. And anything that Workforce Board can do to educate the employers to be mindful of not just measuring recruitment, but retention as well. From recruitment to retention, how do you really keep your workforce? How do you keep the assets that they have? People are assets, and that's so important. And I want us to think about it much more because that's going to keep jobs in our county. It's also going to help in having companies that are much more human today, and they want to help. And so those are areas where I think the Workforce Board can absolutely help. We have an amazing team of volunteers. We have an amazing team of staff who are working hard to keep jobs in the county, keep jobs in the companies. So it's so important for us to, I just want to emphasize that being part of the Workforce Board is such a joy. I really enjoy so much, and I feel like we are truly making a change. And I hope people really know and come and start participating more and start engaging with us more and more. So that's my closing spiel.
Thank you. Doug, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure. I normally do like some kind of wrap up of my thoughts, but I couldn't possibly, as Rebekah was saying, Celia, you've done such a good job of not only sharing this with us, but really putting a bow on it. So really all I'm going to say is thank you so much for coming back, having this important conversation that I think it's not a one-off conversation. It's something that needs to continue to happen. So thank you so much, Celia. Thank you, Rebekah, for this important conversation.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Celia.
Thank you, Rebekah, and thank you, Doug.